Good morning. Good morning, Mike.
Morning.
Good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you too.
Okay, all right. So I had a pretty wonderful experience watching you interview a client. And I thought that we could do an episode focused on teaching lawyers how to interview a client, the importance of the interview, and what you're trying to do with it. So how do you interview clients? What's your approach?
Well, first of all, it's not always wonderful.
Okay.
Secondly, it's like, what is the purpose of the interview? So what you saw me do was interview a client to get the story, and you've seen the damages part. So there's many reasons to interview a client. Some people just, the old style, and what a lot of people experience is you get in an accident, you go to the lawyer's office, they interview you, and then you never see the lawyer again and you get a settlement check.
Are those the types of interviews where they come in and they say, what happened? I got a car accident and my back hurts and my leg hurts, I have injuries.
And it takes about half an hour.
And they get that, and then they give that to the
Yeah.
insurance company, and then they settle the case.
Yeah.
Okay, but you talked about...
And then, you know, there's an in-between version where you have to file a lawsuit. So you have that first initial interview, and then there's several other touch points. The other side will send interrogatories, questions that you have to answer. So maybe you'll have a law firm where you actually come in or over Zoom, work with probably the paralegal. You know, what's your name? What schools did you go to? All your employment history, you know, all these little details of your life, and those are all written down, and you have to sign it at the end. And then maybe you have your deposition taken by the other side, and maybe your attorney prepares you for that. And then maybe you have a mediation, your attorney. But the attorneys often don't come back and talk to the clients, just to talk to the clients. So if you're really lucky, you get a lawyer that talks to you a lot and really wants to get your story. Now, why do we want to get their story? On a level that's pretty intense, I would say. For me, it's because that's what drives me to want to even do this job.
What do you mean by that?
I want to know who I'm representing, and I want to be able to fight for you. And to do that, I need to feel like I'm connected to you. And to feel like I'm connected to you, I need to be able to see beyond this.
Okay, so you want to connect to them by getting them to speak about themselves. How are you doing that? How are you connecting with them? You don't know this person, really.
It's almost more than that. I just don't want to even hear just the words. I want to feel them. I want to see them. I want to absorb everything. It's kind of like what I do with you in this here, whereas, you know, you just say something and then maybe I don't even, that wasn't a good enough answer. I really, really want to know. And I think that's the difference between someone that's doing a job, who's filling out the blanks, and someone that really wants to know. Even, like, I'll ask questions that are maybe not relevant.
Yeah.
But it's because I really want to know what motivates them. What happened? Not just the details, but how it impacted them, why it happened, how it felt, what the experience was, who is this person that we are representing. And so sometimes to do that takes a lot of interviews.
And now, I mean, logistically, we've done, for example, 2 interviews in excess of 2 hours each. We're going to do a third one. Mm-hmm. And you're almost, in my assessment, you're almost as if you're writing a biography. You're intended to write a biography of the person, and you're asking questions dating back to before they were born. And so my question is, how is that, you're talking about a feeling, but how is that important for telling a damages story?
So, like, we've spent about 4 hours with this person, and we still haven't talked about the incident yet.
Right. So how is all of what we talked about even related to damages?
Yeah.
The damages says pain, suffering, inconvenience, and economic losses. How is any of this relevant?
Because who are you communicating with ultimately?
The jury.
Or even a federal judge.
Or a federal judge.
But preferably a jury.
Yeah.
And people make snap decisions. They're going to like you or not quickly, and then you have to overcome the biases. But people also want to connect, and they're going to judge you if they can't connect with you.
Okay.
And so I don't want a false narrative or one that is so surface that people can make assumptions. I also want to tell the correct story, and if I don't know that person, I can't tell the correct story. Because when I tell a story, when I'm crafting the story, it's a true story. And it's normally written or told, and I write because, right, we have mediation, we have settlement demands we have to send out. It's going to show them why a jury is going to love this person and embrace the story. And it's going to explain all the actions of that person. So, for example, let's say that you have a person that had to have, I don't know, back surgery.
Okay.
You know, they had herniated discs. Now they have a 6-level fusion, meaning six of those vertebrae on your back from your neck down, somewhere in there, they're connected with rods and plates, or potentially they put like, they call it a cage, wire cages around them to make them hard, and so you can never, you know, maybe you get rid of the pain but you can't move again. So let's say I have that kind of a client. And let's say that client, I say, well, how are you doing? Well, okay. Well, do you have much pain? Yeah, I have pain. Well, when's the last time you went to the doctor? Well, you know, a year ago. Okay. What's the jury going to think? They're going to think it must not be too bad. They don't go to the doctor, and they're really not in very much pain.
Okay, so those are the false assumptions, and those are somewhat of the biases.
But they're not even really false assumptions. Those are logical assumptions. Those are logical assumptions. If someone tells you they haven't seen a doctor in a year,
Yeah.
and they don't really have much pain or can't describe it to you, and they're doing okay, a logical assumption is they must be doing okay.
Or they're too busy to go to the doctor. They don't have the time.
You're too nice and empathetic.
Okay, well, maybe they're not the doctor type. They just go, I'm going to live with this.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't think juries think that way.
Pain. Okay, help me.
Well, I think if I saw someone, I mean, you know, I've only been on a jury one time, but if I was on a jury and the person came up and said, that, you know, an attorney asked them, when was the last time you were at the doctor? And the claim had to do with them saying they've got back pain so bad they can't do their job. Well, if they said they hadn't been to the doctor in a year, I'd go, gee, that sounds like me. And I have pain all the time, but I still go to work. That's what I would think.
See, it's not a false assumption. That's you pitting yourself against the jury.
Now, if they said, I haven't been to the doctor because I can't afford to go, or I can't make it because I can't leave work.
Yeah.
I can't afford not to work because that's the only way that I can pay to go to the doctor. And so I haven't been able to make it in a year because of this. Then that opinion might change. But what Karen was presenting was a person going, yeah, I haven't been there, and I can't remember the last time I went to the doctor, but it hurts so much that I can't do anything. To me, that sounds like somebody's lying.
That's very cynical.
I'm just,
Most jurors are cynical.
Most jurors are cynical.
yeah, I'm just saying that's what.
No, that's okay.
That's what the other side is going
gonna
to
do.
want to be on the jury for sure. They're going to want people who go. It's the same as when we deal with people who can't understand a large settlement for something.
Yeah.
When you ask for $1 million for someone, they go, $1 million? Are you crazy? I don't believe in people getting $1 million for anything.
Yeah.
So your initial you were thinking like a lawyer, because most plaintiff lawyers, they would blame the jury. False assumption, terrible jury.
Yeah.
And what I'm looking at is jurors come from all walks of life. There are some that maybe shouldn't be on a jury. We're going to probably get those off. But the rest of them, they're not bad people. They're like members of the community.
Yeah.
There are members of there are neighbors. There's someone else's neighbor. There's someone's mother or child. They are just people in general. And so to say it's a false assumption takes away your burden as a lawyer to make sure that that things are packaged properly so people can understand. So the reason that story is so important, right, goes back to age-old times where, that's how we learned, it's through stories. We still learn through stories. We love hearing stories. I mean, we still are story-driven. A story that we can understand, then everything else that you hear, these little bits of data that come in later, fit into that kind of storyline. It makes sense. So as a plaintiff lawyer, my job is to create that, and I don't like to say storyline that we're reducing people to stories, but you still have to. The narrative that we have to use to explain, it has to be believable. Not just believable, it has to be acceptable, and hopefully admirable.
Yeah.
You want your client to not, honestly, be the tragic victim. You want your client to be the hero of their story, because people believe in picking yourself up and keeping on going. People believe that there's a lot of shared morality when you look at stories of what we think is great. Look at the movies. Look at movie lines. We don't want to see the person that got hurt and then crumpled up in a ball and like disappeared from society and cried a lot and got a big jury verdict. That's not what we want to see. We want to see them disintegrate and then get reborn into a superhero and go conquer the world and kill everybody, even though they have to wear a terrible, huge mask because their face has been completely obliterated. That's what society wants. They want to cheer for the person that can somehow triumph even in the most horrible circumstances. And that's why, Strip Matter's first huge victory for the young man that became a quadriplegic on a motorcycle was when the therapist or teacher came in and was going to have him spell dog. Had to go. I don't think he could even nod his head. I can't remember how. Oh, he blinked.
Yeah, he blinked.
He could blink when you were at the right letter. And Strip Matter thought he was going to spell out the word dog, but no. He spelled out the word puppy. It took a long time, and the jury was just, in tears, because they could see that huge effort from a person that really couldn't move anything. At least they could blink, and they knew he understood.
Okay, so the process you just described is this client getting to a place where they're showing the jury that I am not my injury, I'm more than that. I can beat this. How do you take what you're doing in these interview process, long hours, what are you doing there to get them to that place on the stand? So
well, there's two purposes, right?
Yeah.
One is for me to be able to write the narrative so before you go to trial, you're mandated by the courts to try to get a case settled.
Yeah.
You have to go to mediation. So I will write a narrative. I often, that's something that a lot of people will send out to legal interns, young associates, and I have, but then, I rewrite them. Sorry. But I do, because I'm like, who is this person? Like, I don't understand. Why would they come to Seattle from, Boston? Why did they make that change? Who is this person? Why did they do these things? Doesn't make sense to me. Like, because if you don't understand them, don't understand how the injury has impacted them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand it. Oh, I was fleeing from an abusive relationship, and I came here, and then I had just gotten a job, I'm just starting up, and then this happens to me. Okay, now you see a person that doesn't really have a social network, they're kind of alone, they had a, why do people do things? You have to understand it to understand the narrative that's going to come out. In trial, what you're not going to have your client do is tell you their story. No, you'll have other people from that story come in and tell the story. So you have different elements of that story presented.
Why would you have other people tell the story?
Because.
Do you think that the interview process then is sort of a way of also finding out what you don't want to use?
Sure, there's some things, no one's perfect. However, this is the truth. Normally, you want them not to be perfect. You do not want your client to be a perfect person, because no one's going to believe that they're actually telling them the truth.
Because nobody's really perfect.
That's number one. Number two, what people want to see is adversity and overcoming the adversity, and not just because of one, incident. They want to see, how did they do in other incidences? My parents were divorced. I didn't realize I was in a depression. I got really bad grades in school. I was kind of lost for a while. I ran in with the wrong people, but then X happened, and I did this. That's a story people are going to appreciate. They don't want, well, yeah, I just took a gap year. Right?
Yeah.
They don't want that.
No, they don't.
Well, they do want that, because then they're going to cream your client.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everything kind of weaves together. What's important about that mediation letter, win or lose, is what I want the insurance company to know when I write those is how I'm going to win that case from a damages perspective. I want them to know that, because you're not gonna get out of this narrative. It's like a taunt. This is the narrative. You can do whatever you want to try to hit that narrative, and you're gonna fail. You don't want a weak narrative.
No.
You don't want a narrative that can be easily attacked. So, for example, let's say that you have an ex-spouse. You're really worried about the ex-spouse. You have a new spouse, and the defense is going to talk to that ex-spouse, and now you're really worried. No. You want in the narrative to say that you got married, you had this situation, there's an ex-spouse, and then lean into whatever the negative is. You want to lean into it. So go ahead and call that ex-spouse. See how that goes for you.
Yeah.
We've already laid everything she's going to say out.
Yeah, we've talked
and
to
it's fine.
her, or him, and So you want a really strong narrative that they can't come out. And in fact, what I'll often do is take their worst stuff, and make sure I put it into the narrative with the way that it's going to be presented.
So the interviews help you embrace truth. And then by embracing truth and knowing everything, you know all the good and the bad, and then you get to control the narrative. And you're directing the case.
It's too simple.
Well, then complicate it for us.
It's not just the truth. I'm not just seeking the truth.
Okay, what are you seeking?
I'm seeking love.
Love?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, love is complicated.
I'm seeking to love my client.
Okay.
And I want to understand how I'm going to do that. There's times when I don't, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
I wish I could just, if I went back through, there's some that I didn't. Now, some of them, no problem. Still managed to do just fine. But I need to love my client, me personally, because I feel like if I can love my client, then other people can love my client
I think that's
through me.
I think that's the first time I've heard you say love. I don't think I've ever heard you use the word love before. Have I? I don't think I have.
It's a precious word.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want, I want to.
Okay.
Like, so I'll ask them questions about that. Like, why? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you've heard me say love before because you commented on it to one of the clients. I asked the client if they loved X.
I think when I say love, I say like you wanting to love. I've never heard you use it in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like the same love I feel for my kids, but it's all from the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differences, right, in types of love.
Yeah.
But there is, look at, he's got all puppy dog. Because, Mo is a love-based person.
Oh, I know.
If you hadn't known that. But here's the truth.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. I don't know that I've never had this experience. Certainly not lately. People want to keep talking. They want to keep telling the story.
Oh, yeah.
They want to keep coming to have that experience. You know why?
They feel loved.
They feel seen.
Okay.
Which is kind of almost the same thing.
Yeah, I think
in
it
that
is.
context.
I think it is.
To be able to be seen is, even if you hate that person, I think, is the most validating thing. Yeah.
I would even say it's more to be understood.
Good point. That's a better word.
I think that whether or not you like someone,
Yeah.
if you feel that you're understood, then you can accept whatever else is going on.
Yeah.
Thank you for that lesson. That was a good one.
That was only like, how